Hey, Central Arkansas comic fans, this is Caleb from the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. On November 15th, 16th, and 17th, I want you to join me and my fellow co-hosts at Comic Conway, presented by the Faulkner County Library System. This takes place over 3 days. It's one of the conventions that we look forward to most every year. On Friday, we're all going to be up at the Faulkner County Library. On Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be hanging out at the Conway Expo and Event Center. It's going to be a wonderful time. They've got some incredible guests this year, including legendary artist Graham Nolan, Michael Golden, Freddie Williams, Jacob Chabot, and we really hope you come out and join us. It's going to be fun. We're looking forward to it, and we'll see you there.
1, 2, 3.
So I dropped it.
Yep, yeah. That's what Matt asked me whenever I came in on Thursday. He's like, because I guess 4 was still on my list because I hadn't gotten it. He's like, have you gotten 4? And I was like, man, at this point, I don't even know. Like, they fucked everything up whenever they made Volume 2 a completely separate
volume.
thing. And then whenever they did that, whenever they put Volume 2 in the system, they got rid of Volume 1 completely in the system, so they couldn't even transfer the lists over.
Yeah, there's something weird going on with the way that publishers are doing, like, next, quote-unquote, next issues and next volumes.
Well, you read Green Lantern number 12?
Yeah, and
the end of it's like Season 2 coming in 2020 because
so
it was being canceled?
We're doing seasons of, like, books now, which I understand for some things, like, you know, that are connected to television shows, but it's weird that we're doing seasons of, like, DC and Marvel books
I think
now.
In that case it's okay because we're going to have, like, a spin-off season of the
Black Stars?
Black Stars. Yeah. And then we're going to go back to the Green Lantern story.
It's going to be Morrison, so that's like, you know, because I've been enjoying this run, but it's not going to be Liam Sharp. Like, Liam Sharp is doing the covers.
I'm probably not doing
off the top of my head, I don't remember who's doing the interiors.
I'm probably not doing that run. I'll do the Green Lantern Season 2 when it comes back.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I'll wait and see.
It's weird that they only did a 12-issue run of, like, that. Like, that's one of those things. It's like, no, what you've got could be an epic run. Like, this could be like one of the Green Lantern story arcs.
So well, for DC, it makes more sense that they stop it then.
Yes, true.
So catty this morning.
You're feisty.
I can't wait to hear your opinion of Grendel.
I like it. Well, so we do want to go ahead and start this podcast? Get this thing going?
Let's record.
Everybody doing okay this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one thing I want to address from last week's episode.
Okay.
Because Jerry and Sean both told me I was wrong.
Okay.
Gamera is not part of the Godzilla universe, even though Gamera should be part of the Godzilla universe, because he's actually... The movies are made by the same studio.
Gotcha.
They just never cross them over.
So it could be, though.
It could be. It's just they've never been in the same movie. But, you know, my mind, looking back to when I was a kid and watching Gamera, I seem to have remembered. But I don't want it to be out there that I'm an idiot.
Is this one of those things where, like, there was a Sinbad movie that never was actually made?
Yeah, I think it's like the Berenstain Bears.
Right.
Yeah. Was it? Oh yeah, you're talking about Kazam?
Yeah.
Kazam.
Yeah. Just that.
Yeah.
Also,
Matt, do you have anything that you want to say?
Absolutely not.
Last week's episode?
My stance couldn't be stronger.
So I wanted to talk just for a second before we get in. I did see the Joker, and I know you had some concerns about it, but and if I remember right, your concern was that it was going to be like One Bad Day.
Yeah, just kind of an incel apologist film.
I didn't get that feel.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to be something that, like Fight Club, some people will misunderstand.
Yeah.
But not because the fucking movie isn't perfectly clear about what it is. From the very first scene, he is a clearly unhinged man.
Yeah.
On his way. It is absolutely the fall of a man that's already insane into darkness. And the last half hour of that film is fucking the best Joker you will ever see in a movie.
Okay. Well, that makes me excited to go see it. Yeah, my concern was never that, like, it was intentionally going to do something like that was going to be bad. My concern has always been that we live in a culture that will find a way to celebrate that versus see it as the problematic thing that it is.
In one way, he is an incel because he is this, 40-year-old man living in his mom's house that's taking care of his mom. Mm-hmm. But he's also insane and his mom's insane. Yeah,
there's a history of that.
So it's not like the typical what you think of as an incel.
Okay.
At least in my mind, this is a story of a dude that's just fucking insane.
Yeah, he's just got problems.
Yeah, and they give you some background on whether it's trauma either physically and mentally, and it's a combination of both. But it gives you some background, and maybe it's stuff you don't need to know. I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Did you guys see the cringy video that it was like Jimmy Kimmel?
No.
Yeah, he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and they got a little extra clip from the movie, and it was basically just Joaquin like getting frustrated with somebody because he kept whispering and calling him Sharon like a drama queen on set. So eventually Joaquin was just like, no, fuck you. I'll come back whenever I'm, he's very method. In his
Oh, no, he is the method
yeah.
actor. Like, he's not very method. He is the quintessential
I will
method
say,
actor.
last thing on this is, in my opinion, I mean, I haven't seen every role out there this year, but in my opinion, he should at least get a nod for an Academy Award. He's in absolutely every scene of the movie.
Oh, he's an incredible
and
actor.
he's fucking amazing in every scene of the movie. So
Nice.
it's a slow burn into a dark descent. So don't go in expecting, crime fighting type thing, because it's not that.
Well, there you go, folks. Live on the boots reporting from the opening weekend of The Joker from Craig, which is awesome. Now I'm kind of less hesitant to walk into a theater and see it, because I think it's going to do some cool things.
It does.
I'm curious to see how it goes. Well, hey, folks. Hey, you out there in Radio Land, you beautiful people, you with your headphones on. This is episode 93 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast, and we are glad to be back once again. Another week around the table, and Jer Bear is back with us today. Hey, Jer Bear.
Hi.
We missed you the whole time. The whole time. We hope you all are ready for a really exciting show. We are ready to bring one to you. But Jerry's not alone at the table. I am, as always, Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance.
And go ahead and introduce yourself one more time, Jerry Bear.
And I'm Jerry.
I feel like
And
that
he's
was-
not that Jerry from Rick and Morty.
No, he's not. I mean, he is a Jerry, but he's not.
And he is a Jerry
That-
Smith,
It's
but
not
he's
an
not that
alias.
Jerry.
It is my real name.
So we know Craig did some movie watching. We know Jerry Bear did some travel, and you want to extrapolate on that a little bit?
This is actually the first time we stayed in Seattle proper, because it's a really busy area, so it's more expensive to stay in.
Oh, for sure.
So like the last two times we stayed in Snohomish and then Everett, which is where we're eventually going to move. But she had some friends visiting from California, so we actually stayed in Seattle proper and saw a lot of cool stuff. Like her friends only had one full day in town. Like they flew in on Friday and flew out on Sunday. So we did a lot of stuff.
Nice. It's kind of a whirlwind tour.
Yeah. We went to Pike's Place Market.
Okay.
It's like wall-to-wall people. They have like all this underground like shops and stuff, and people throwing fish and everything.
Nice.
It's pretty awesome. When you guys visit, we definitely have to go there.
Did you catch a fish?
Awesome.
I did not.
Did you get hit with a fish?
No.
They won't let you catch a fish, will they?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's just unsanitary.
Some
'Cause
people
they're-
don't- some people don't get a choice
They wear
about
like
this.
those gloves and everything. So,
It's a skill.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
dude. Can you
Yeah.
imagine how slimy and slippery those things are to be able to like just latch on one? It's a superpower. How'd your week, Matt?
Busy, capital B. Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, I can relate to that on a spiritual level. It has been one heck of a week. I did something cool on Saturday. I got my first taste of like real lawyer life. I helped do what's called a record sealing in Brinkley, Arkansas. So if people have low-level misdemeanors or a certain type of felony, after a certain number of years, they can come to lawyers and we can help them apply to get their record sealed so it doesn't show up. So that was the first like actual like lawyerly thing that I've done. So I felt kind of cool.
Very awesome.
And I went and got badass barbecues and saw my grandmama.
Before we get into
You got another
the
one?
meat and potatoes, our longtime listener and friend, Ed, hippie Gandalf pal,
Yes.
who I say that lovingly, Ed, our thoughts go out to your wife, who is, she had surgery this week and is recovering, and she had some
shit.
complications, so just, I'm not going to get into any more than that.
Yeah,
but
no,
our thoughts go out to you and your wife, buddy.
I did not know that for sure. Hope there's, a fast recovery. That's
The surgery was elective, and I'm not going to tell her medical history, of course, but not elective. It was something she needed to have done, and they were happy to have the surgery. It wasn't like a surprise surgery or anything like that. But anyway, she's in recovery, and so just thoughts going out to them. So.
absolutely.
Next time you see him, remind him that there was a book that we talked about that he was wanting a reminder of what it was.
Okay.
And he can fill you in on like what it was about.
So you want me to remind him that there's a book that
because
he should be reminded of?
He forgets every time he sees you guys.
Okay.
So next time you see him, just be like, hey, what was it about?
Okay. Yeah. I'll ask him. I'm sure I'll see him Wednesday.
I love him so much. I love him so much.
I wanted to bring something up from last episode, too.
Okay.
Because I feel like
you weren't here.
Didn't get talked about enough and appreciated enough. But Sound and Fury. Sergio Simpson.
Oh my God!
Yes. Did you watch? I downloaded it on Netflix and watched it on the plane.
I have listened to the album about 7 times. I haven't seen the Netflix series yet, but it's dude, I love some Sturgill Simpson.
So good, the animation, the whole story, and everything that they did.
See, finally, this is a gap that we can bridge. It brings us together. Touch my hand.
Yeah.
Touch it. There we go.
Just the tips.
Yeah, just the tips. Hey, I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Real quick. You ready? It's pop quiz. Where are you going to be at on November 15th?
I'm going to be at Comic Conway.
Where are you
presented by Faulkner County Library.
Yeah, you are. Where are you going to be at on November 16th?
I'm going to be at the same place.
Where are you going to be at on the 17th?
At the same place.
That's right. All weekend, November 16th, 15th, 16th, and 17th at the Conway Expo Center, located at 2505 East Oak Street in Conway, Arkansas. There is a little shindig going on. It's called Comic Conway, and we're all going to be around. I don't know the details of how we're going to be around, but we're definitely going to be there, and we want you to join us as well. You should go like their Facebook page. You should go check out all the awesome, and I say this lovingly because y'all know I like to bitch about local cons that just like don't have stuff.
What?
They actually have some legitimate comic creators.
Among
some
other things that he likes to bitch about.
I like to bitch a lot. But they have some really, really cool comics creators, people who are going to be there, people that are in the books that we know and love. Freddie Williams is going to be there, and I cannot be more excited about that. And this is kind of the only chance that you're going to meet him at a smaller con. You know, if you go to these bigger cons, and I love the bigger cons too, no shade. If you go to the bigger cons, you're going to have to wait in line. It's going to take forever to get in. It's just wall-to-wall people. These smaller cons, you actually get that one-on-one personal interaction with these creators, and it's amazing. So come out to Comic Conway, man. Join us, join in the festivities. If it looks like we've got enough people interested, we might try to do like an after-hours thing where we get together with folks who listen to the podcast. We'll see what we can do. But come out there and hang out with us. In addition
to Freddie Williams, Graham Nolan, who creator of Bane, is going to be there.
Nice.
Howard Chaykin, which if you don't know who he is, I'm not sure you need to be...
Right, fucking Howard
you probably need to look that up and then get back to us. Matthew Reynolds, some other creators, but looking forward. I always look forward to this show. There's 2 local shows that well, there used to be 3, but one of them they don't do anymore. But there's 2 that are ongoing that I look forward to every year. This one is always, as you said, it's 90% a comic convention. And maybe a little bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's comic-centric convention, which you just don't see very often anymore.
The proprietors packed the house with hotness.
They do.
I'm excited.
They get good guests every year.
I cannot wait. Fundamentally cannot wait. I am giddy. So, but we are a comics podcast.
Yes.
So we better talk about some comics. But before we do that, I just want to, friendly reminder, little pitch out there to everybody who's listening at home. Some of the comics, at least one that we're going to be speaking about, they're new. They just hit the shelves on Wednesday. Like I said, at least one, maybe more. I don't know what the other guys are going to talk about. But with saying that, there's not any really good way that we can talk about these things without spoiling some of the plot, some of the what happens. So this is just your fair warning. We're obviously going to tell you what books we're going to talk about. So if you hear it and you haven't read it yet, but you really want to, hit the little pause button and just don't come back and yell at us. But this is your fair spoiler warning. I'm also going to attempt, I've been doing good about this lately, to put show notes that have time markers in. That's redundant to say, but in the show notes. So I'm gonna get that done so you can see what the books are before you even push play. You can see what we're going to talk about, when it is, and so you know kind of when to hit that pause button so you don't spoil anything for yourself. Because we don't want to do that for anybody. We don't want to mess anybody's experience up of how you absorb this media.
Well, and the flip side of that is if it's a book that you were unaware of, go ahead and listen to it and see if it's something
for sure.
That'll sell you on buying the book or whatever. That's kind of our thing is we want to introduce new things to people. As well as things that are hot and on the market that everybody knows about. We're going to talk about them as well.
Hot and poppin', would you say?
Hot. No, I would never say that, Matt. No, I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
All right, Jerry. You missed out on last week, so we're going to start off. You're going to be our inaugural short stack dropper. What did you read this week? Just quick and dirty.
All right. I had a lot of stuff to read.
Yeah, you did.
So there was plenty to throw on the list. The first one, which was pretty cool, came out this week. Ghost Rider #1 by Ed Brees and Aaron Cooter. So we know that Johnny Blaze is the king of hell right now. He took Mephisto's place after that one story arc of like 50 that Marvel likes to do during the summer. Some demons escape from hell, and Johnny Blaze is pretty much going to Earth to send them all back. He runs into to Danny Ketch, who was, the next Ghost Rider, and you basically get the hint that maybe he's letting this power go to his head of being king of hell, and he might need to be stopped.
Well, if you're reading Avengers, you know damn well that he's letting the power go to his head.
And I'm actually behind on it, and I really need to get caught up because I know they did a bunch of really great Ghost Rider stuff in it.
It's still going on right
now. So it's gonna get real interesting.
It is.
Yeah, one of the last panels that they had, just his design that they did on him looks amazing.
Yeah, Cooter nailed the art.
Oh, just killed it.
The next book that I have on my list, I finally got to read Once and Future #1.
Nice.
By Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora. Oh, actually, did I say? Yeah, I did say who was on Ghost Rider. Sorry.
Check that one off the list.
Yeah. Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora. Once and Future. I want to read this whole thing. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get to read it in singles. Yeah. Because they're not...
they're having a hard time getting issues to the local comic book stores, so, yeah.
And it's pretty great. They kind of bring up something that nobody has ever really talked about before in the Arthurian mythology with Excalibur, is the scabbard of the sword.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, abilities that it grants the user. You get this this guy who's kind of like fumbling idiot a little bit, and his grandmother, who apparently was like hot shit back in her day, like hunting vampires and all kinds of magical stuff like that. And she finds out that, the scabbard has been stolen from its resting place. So she gets her grandson to come along with her to, steal it back before they try to apparently resurrect King Arthur, who really wasn't as great as everybody thought, and start a time of darkness.
Man, Kieran Gillen.
Yeah.
He's nailing some shit right now.
That dude's good. He's just really good.
The third thing on my list was 20th Century Boys Volume 5 by Naoki Urasawa. I've been completely enjoying the series. Like, I read all of Volume 4 on my flight to Seattle, and I read all of Volume 5 on my flight back.
Nice.
And this entire story has had me completely enthralled. Unfortunately, I'm at that point where I have to wait for new volumes to release. I think there's going to be 9 total, and I think 6 comes out in the middle of next month. But it's like a sci-fi drama type of story. Starts off in the 70s with a group of kids. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it
you were
before.
telling me about it. It sounds like hotness.
The current storyline is taking place in around 2014 or 2015, and this whole cult thing that started off as, small potatoes back in the turn of the century is like almost taking over the world at this point.
Nice.
But, everybody thinks that they're like the saviors. It's been really interesting.
Awesome.
So I really look forward to finishing up that series.
Now, are you getting that? You getting that in actual hard copy?
Yeah, they don't really, unless I wanted to download it on oh god, what's the book reading app that people use?
Scribe,
like Scribe or something like that, because they don't have it on any of the manga apps. But yeah, and I've already got 3 other series picked out of Urasawa's that I'm gonna try to read after this.
I have to borrow that from you at some point.
Yeah, it's all been really good.
Craig, what'd you read this week, buddy?
Yeah, so my first one is going to clear up my comments on Facebook that I got a little blowback about. Batman #80 by Tom King and JR Jr.
I read that one.
Yeah. So, first of all, the art in this book, it was really distracting to me. John Romita Jr. is just stay off of properties I like, please.
Damn.
I will second that.
I said on Facebook that Tom King jumped the shark with this issue, and I realized that this issue is probably misleading. Mm-hmm. But this is the third straight issue in a row that I've been like, at the end of 79, we got the impression Batman was actually under control and had a plan for what was going on in Gotham. Then he fucking shows up in Gotham and apparently doesn't have a plan based on this issue because he's totally leaving up to chance that his son is going to be killed by his non-real father, his father from another dimension.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's a setup that he's probably already in the mansion or whatever, but it did not feel like, and it may very well be that Batman that we saw isn't Batman, that it's somebody else dressed as Batman.
There was a clue that dropped in that.
Yeah.
But it might be. I don't know. I haven't fully decided yet.
So, I mean, I will give Tom King the benefit of the doubt, but goddamn, I'm ready for something to be different.
I will second that.
I'm loving it. I'm loving every minute.
I get it. I mean, I've been on the minority list since I posted that.
You
People
and me
calling me out, but
thank you, Craig.
Daredevil number 12.
I also think you're cray.
No, I'm telling you, 5 issues ago, I was ready to drop this book.
Yeah.
This issue was fucking amazing.
I've seen more than one person say that as well in line.
Yeah, it was fucking amazing. Wilson Fisk becomes Wilson Fisk, and...
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Technical difficulty.
Wilson Fisk is Wilson Fisk that you know and love in this issue.
Yeah.
And you see more of him heading back to being Daredevil again instead of Netflix season 1 Daredevil.
Did they finally get Chichetto back on the art?
Get what?
Did they get Chichetto back on the art?
He's back on, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
yeah.
I might actually jump back on then.
Then the last book is Green Lantern number 12, and I was kind of sad because I thought this was the last issue in the run, but then at the end of it, we got the little note that season 2 will be coming out next year. So I was pretty excited about that. I feel like this creative team's been killing it on Green Lantern, and I guess they're going to jump over and do another book that ties into it that, you know, whatever. And then I'm going to come back when they come back to Green Lantern.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So, yeah, that was my books.
All right, we'll jump over to Matt right now. What you got, buddy?
I read Absolute Carnage, The Immortal Hulk, number 1 by Al Ewing, Philippe Andrade.
Did
Chris
you hear that, Jerry?
O'Halloran?
He read an Absolute Carnage book.
And VC's Travis Lanham. Yeah, I read
Or did he read a Hulk book?
He read a Hulk book that had Absolute Carnage on the title.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not a. I have no hate for Venom. I'm just, as I described previously, I'm symbiote neutral. So I probably wouldn't have picked this book up if Al Ewing hadn't have written it. But it was excellent.
It was an excellent character study.
Very good read. So yeah, I highly recommend that one. I also read White Trees, A Black Sandtail number 2 from Image Comics. Chip Zdarsky, Chris Anka, Matt Wilson, and Aditya Bidikar. I bet I nailed that.
I bet you did.
So I actually forecasted the end of this book when I read the first one. I was like, yeah, the King, I saw all this coming.
Yeah.
However, it didn't change my enjoyment of the book.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I don't think he was trying to hide the ball. I think it was, I mean, it's a classic thing. I think
Yeah.
you were meant to, but enjoy the ride.
Yeah, it was great. Man, I highly recommend this one.
Yeah, it was good.
And, you know, I think I mentioned when we roundtabled, it was like, man, how's he going to wrap this up in one issue? Well,
And did
it very well. Did it very well and didn't feel rushed.
No, pacing was
that's
on
something
point.
that needs to be said. It
Well,
didn't
what
feel
I love
rushed.
is they're calling it a Black Sandtail. So I hope that we're going to get more stories from this.
Yeah, it's certain
thing.
Yeah, I would.
I to be honest, I kind of wish one of the other ones would have died because I feel like there would have been more emotional impact. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, there
Because I
could
don't
have
want.
been.
Yeah.
Well, we should talk about that at one point.
Yeah.
All right, so
He's
did
got
you have
one
one
more
more?
book.
don't I get 3?
No,
just
your
2.
short stack's
Sorry,
minimized
it's
this
shorter.
week.
You're on short stack probation.
You're on a carb diet, so you only get 2.
I am
2
so sorry.
pancakes.
I got really excited.
You got excited because you didn't say his books. So.
Please carry on.
If I may.
You may, sir.
Also, I read
Off my capty.
Also read from Stacks Press, which apparently is a Titan Press imprint, a 3-issue series called The Season of the Snake by Sergei Lehmann and Jean-Marie Michard. For all our French listeners, you probably know about this one. This is a reprint English version of a French book. I read about this somewhere online, and, I had Matt order them for me at the local LCS. And then I set them aside for a year and forgot about them. So I went back and read them. This was interesting. So it's like a sci-fi fantasy story. The 3 issues are like 60 pages each.
So it's Star Wars.
Negative. It's, to summarize it, it's basically about, individualism versus, the individual being lost to the interest of the group. And they show that in several different ways. One of them literally is a character that is a insectoid and literally has a hive mind. So it doesn't use the pronouns I. When it's talking about itself, it refers to itself and the hive as the queen's consciousness. And, at one point
that seems like a lot of words. I mean, I is so much simpler.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
or even we.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you feel that you're reading it. It's like, this is how deep the hive mind goes. And then at one point, it drives this point home where this insectoid is visiting this planet that's inhabited by humans mainly and attacks somebody else based on something that this other being had done to the hive previously. Well, he's punished for it alone. The hive is not. The hive is on the hive planet. And it was really interesting, but it drops you into this world without any with very little explanation.
I love stories that do that.
Yeah, it just drops you into the world. So,
let me figure this out on my own.
Yeah. You don't give it, let it unveil as it unveils.
Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah. The art was great. The writing was really good. It was kind of text heavy, but it didn't feel like you weren't bogged down because it was written well.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah, good.
Can I go?
I think he's dead.
I'm scared to go.
I think he's dead.
Matt's bigger than me and he punches real hard. All right. So I read, and I can't believe nobody said this, I read Powers of X #6.
Yeah.
Finally got around, did it this morning.
I have to force myself not to mention these books every week.
It's amazing, so I kind of think we have to. I will say on one hand, though, that this book was a little weird. In Hickman we trust, but there are some things in there that I'm just like, what's going to happen with this? I don't understand. I don't understand why they made this choice. Like, this choice isn't logical. But again, it's in Hickman we trust. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do to get around it, to pull out of it, to make it work with the characterizations that we know.
Well, you have to realize
the characterizations that we know.
Yeah, you have to realize that these characters aren't necessarily the versions you've known
for sure.
Your whole life. This is not your 1980s Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
let your baggage go.
Yeah, for sure, and you have to. It's again, also like being somebody who enjoys politics and seeing how nations express themselves. There's some things I'm just like, that's interesting. Not bad, just interesting. I'm curious to see what they do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, book the second, Ruby Falls #1, Anna Cynthia and Flavia Biondi. This book was just dope. I really enjoyed this book. It's kind of a neo-noir story. So it takes all the elements of these old school detective stories, these like noir film, and I don't want to say revamps it, but it brings it into the 21st century a little bit. Murder mystery, just all kinds of just fun stuff. I love Flavia Biondi, and I don't think many people know who he is, but I've spoken about one of his books before. He wrote the book Generations. He's an Italian artist. So his graphic novel Generations is out there. It's great. You should read that if you haven't. Check it out. And then last but kind of least, actually, I read Dead Eyes #1 by John McCrae and Jerry Duggan. And I say I read it, even though I just opened the first page and turned it off again, because
sounds like a lie.
Read it before. No, I have read it because it's just a reprint of Dead Rabbits #1. And I thought at first it was going to be like a recolored version because some of the screenshots I'd seen looked a little bit different. But I actually went up into my, my comic book haven to where I keep my collection, and I pulled out Dead Rabbits #1 and did a page-by-page comparison. Same colors, same everything, just straight up a reprint. And
They just changed the name.
yeah, they just changed the name.
Don't say it again though, or else we'll owe them money.
That's fine.
We went through this last year. Whenever you
If you say Dead Rabbits 3
God
times,
damn it, Craig.
that he shows up and kills us.
So I was a little bit grumpy about this because, you know, I spent my money on a book that I already had. I would have loved a heads up on it. One of our friends reached out and was like, hey, but also consider the fact this is a great jumping on point. Maybe there were a lot of people, and there were in fact a lot of people who missed DR #1 to save Jerry's soul. And it's the same story. So if you didn't get to read the book about the deceased bunnies, then check out Dead Eyes #1. The deceased bunnies gang. Check out Dead Eyes #1. It's a fantastic fucking story. I think it's
I don't know what else they were going to do. You kind of had to reprint the first 2 issues, but they could have told people, but then, you know.
Stick it in one. Image has had expensive books before. Stick it in one thing
and
for
then start on issue
$2 more.
Yeah.
Pitch it out there and then put it in the solicitations. Hey, this is a wonderful opportunity for
I'm not saying
anybody
they
who has
handled
read
it
this
well.
before.
I'm just saying I don't know what else. I mean, they could have done that,
Yeah,
but
just
they
let us
had to
know.
reprint this in some form for a new title.
Well, yeah, because they also recalled, or at least I'm putting that in quotes because nobody actually did it. They told comic shops to send back all the copies of the ones they didn't sell. Well, comic shops didn't do that; they just stuck them on eBay.
Yeah.
I get it. They had to reprint those stories. I think it could have been done a different way, and I would have loved it if they had have given a heads up to the people who bought the books before to say, "Hey, there's literally nothing new in this." Like,
part of the problem with that is that the way comic book shops order, they order based on the sales and the solicits for the first issue.
Right.
They're ordering for the 3rd issue. So if you have a bunch of people that sign up starting at the 3rd issue, when they're placing their order, they don't always know how many they need to freaking order. It's kind of a nightmare for the local comic book shop.
Craig's making all these reasons up when the real reason is the fact that he could not bring himself to put Dead Eyes and Dead Rabbits in the same spot in his collection.
No, they're
because of
definitely
alphabetical.
going together.
Are they really?
Yeah.
That doesn't... Okay.
I will put Dead Rabbit the first 2 issues, and then it'll be Dead Eyes, and it's going to be alphabetized. No, it'll be. I am not the one that follows what the computer tells
me to. Yeah, I have no. I don't feel bad about it at all.
Detective Comics goes under Batman.
No, that's falsities. It's not how ABCs work.
Amazing Spider-Man goes under S for Spider-Man.
I get that.
I agree.
I get
with
that.
both of those.
Action Comics goes under A. Not Superman.
Yes, it does. That's correct. I don't understand when you apply that logic to detective. Anyway, so we all read for this week a book that we are going to now bring to the table as our family meal. Kind of our, it's the main dish of the podcast. And it was a good one. It was a really good one. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And that book is Grendel Devil's I can't speak apparently. Grendel Devil's Odyssey, #1 of 8 by Mr. Matt Wagner and his kid, Brennen Wagner. I say kid, he's a grown-ass man, but it's his son.
It's still a son.
And this book comes out of Dark Horse #1. So before we get into it, I thought this book was great. I think it had a lot of fun with it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. What did everybody else think?
I thought it was a book.
Yeah?
No, so I've never read Grendel before. I didn't do any research on Grendel going into this book. I wanted to read it cold. And, I thought the second half of the book was fantastic. The first half, the book didn't do anything to sell me to become a Grendel fan, to make me want to read. But it may not just may not be my thing.
Okay.
But that's not to say it's a bad book or that the second half of the book was really fun, I thought. Yeah. So that's my take on it.
Nice. Jerry, what'd you think about it, dude?
Yeah, I don't know. I like Craig, I've never really read any Grendel. I've always been interested in it just because I thought that he had a kind of cool suit design and everything. But as far as this goes, and I like my Space Odysseys and everything. But yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really
resonate with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't really bring me in.
Yeah, it left me cold. I mean, I read it. I mean, I've I guess I just did. I don't feel strongly one way or another.
That's only because you were cold before you read it.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, there's some great parts on this book that we'll get into, and, and that's not to say this book's bad. I'm sure if you're a Grendel fan, or if you're, and I'm sure there's people like you, Caleb, that maybe necessarily weren't familiar. I don't know your history with Grendel, but
that's right. You don't assume my Grendel history.
I'm sure there's going to be some people that brought in, and there's some great parts to this book.
Yeah. No, I mean, I joke. You're absolutely right. I have not, before this, I have not read any Grendel before. I have read Mage, which is one of Matt's other big properties, and I love that.
I love Matt Wagner.
Oh, so
don't get me wrong. Yeah. And I don't think this book's bad. It's not a bad book.
You just don't have the love for the property that brought you into it. I didn't either, which is funny because I had a whole different experience with this. Yeah. But before we get into that, let's talk about what was actually in the book, what the book was. So the book picks up the story. It brings us kind of up close and personal with the extinction of mankind. Insofar as it's in the far and distant future, Grendel, who obviously title of the book, main character, he and a sentient robot they're kind of piloting this giant big black dick vibrator into the far reaches of space. It's what it looks like. It straight up looks like it was modeled after a robot penis. It's not my fault. They did it, not me.
Montages of scenes from Austin Powers with the different people.
And they kept putting it through little bitty holes.
Johnson.
It's what it looks like. So anyway, they're piloting this very large phallic ship into space. And the whole point, the reason that they're out there, what they're doing, is they're searching for this planet, any planet, just a planet that can sustain human life so that they can preserve humanity as a species. They haven't had very much luck so far. All the places that they found, the places that they've came close to that could almost work. There's always a catch though. There's always something that kind of just knocks it out categorically. One planet has global sporadic acid rain, which is not conducive to living well. Another planet has lightning tornadoes. So,
dude, that's metal as fuck.
This is like, I would have loved to have seen that drawn. But that would probably be because that's where Mage lives. And that would make me happy. So, no big deal, but that's not going to work. But then they come across this planet, this HTX 81635. And it seems like just maybe this might work out. It's a little bit smaller than Earth. It's not earthy size. It's like 75%, 85% the size of Earth.
Yeah.
It's got a bunch of moons kicking around, in orbit as well. We only have one. They get like 5, which is I'm a little jealous of. I would love to look out and see multiple moons.
This planet's always in retrograde.
Yeah, just 100% of the time. So, it's a nice place. So they drop in to check it out, see what's going on. And I mean, visually for me, I thought it was stunning. It's this kind of mountainous desert wasteland, with all these vibrant and lush, really, really green plants, but there's no standing water, which is kind of curious. He's like, how does this work out? But plants, and they grow in the desert. All the plants, they find out after a little bit of introspection, these plants store concentrated water in their cells. Like, these are like mecha cacti in my brain. That's what I came up with. These are like genetically superior alien cactuses that have soaked up and stored all of this planet's hydration in its cells. Unfortunately for Grendel, all of the moons that are kind of circling the planet, they're making the magnetic fields of the planet go insane. So his little, his big dick spaceship has a little bitty spaceship that pops out of it. It's like the rabbit, I guess, that they fly down.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, I'm just saying.
It was definitely
I had fun with it. Yeah. And so they were going to fly that around to kind of explore, but they can't because the magnetic fields, it's all going haywire. They're unable to do what they need to do. So Grendel's going to have to hoof it. His robot head buddy just is going to sit there and float around. And all of this kind of begs the question, who sent Grendel out here? And if you're familiar with the Grendel lore, which prior to this, I haven't, Craig hasn't been, were you, Matt? No, Jerry wasn't. None of us really were. If you're familiar with the Grendel lore, though, you might be asking yourself, what happened to the kingdom of Grendel? What happened to the Orion Asante? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I, someone who is wholly unqualified to have this conversation, having never read any Grendel prior to this, I'm going to tell you. The kingdom of Grendel and the Orion Asante, they've kind of fallen into calamity and despair. The enemies of the Grendel kingdom they've laid siege to the capital, and the Asante bloodline there's no more heirs. It's going to just die out. Sad day. But again, gorgeous depiction of the kingdom, excellent design. It's very Wakanda-ish in culture and design. Also, I mean, when they're walking through and they've got all the troops sitting there, it's kind of Nazi-ish too, which it seems that was kind of weird.
Just a melding of culture.
Yeah, right. It was kind of this weird imperialistic blend, which again, having read no Grendel that could be explained elsewhere, and I'm sure it was. Anyway, the leader is Juno's second, and she is the last of the Asante bloodline, and inevitably the last leader of this Grendel kingdom. And she's the one who sent Grendel out into his space quest to find this new planet on which they could rebuild mankind, someplace that will allow humanity to revitalize itself. That way humans won't know conquest or war. It's like this ideology of peace. It's like leaving the past behind. So they give Grendel his robot and his giant black vibrator spaceship, and they launch him out into the cosmos like one big phallic blast. Now, best case scenario in any of these situations. I'm trying to get Matt to laugh, and it's not working.
Phallic blast.
Best case scenario in any situation, any sci-fi book where you're going out to find a new planet, is you want to find a planet that's uninhabited but will sustain life. Because you don't want to, I mean, if you're a nice person, you don't want to wreck other cultures. You don't want to fuck up any other planets. But scientifically speaking, if a planet can support life, then it already does support life. So it's, kind of a real, like you're looking for a needle in a giant stack of needles and a giant stack of hay. And as Grendel is exploring this HTX 81635, they do in fact find signs of life, which makes sense, right? So evidence of a primitive culture is there. They stumble across these, they're kind of like stilt totems, a couple of sticks that have been thrown together.
Original totems and the totems in the original Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me.
Well, those, and it reminded me of when Indiana Jones is exploring and he finds, like, when he's going into like Kalimaz or whatever that guy's name was, his place. They see these kind of stilt things wrapped together as markers, with skulls on them. It's kind of that same thing. And these skulls look almost human, and like in the book, they find these. But the skulls have these little spines poking out of the head, protruding like little horns or a crown or something. And
smaller phallics.
Right. True. Skull dicks. So
that's indie metal band.
So these things, and they're set up in a big circle, which of course Grendel just walks right in the middle of. He's like, I fear no arena, because the robot's just like, hey, like, see how these are set up? This could be like an amphitheater. Maybe this is like a burial ground. I don't know. And Grendel's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to stand in the middle of it. And then the ground starts shaking, like the earth starts quaking. Obviously, something's happening.
The end of the world. The earth moved. Phallic blast.
It was shifted and lifted. This giant murder beetle scorpion crawdad thing kind of pops out of the ground. And Grendel just obliterates this thing, just destroys it completely, whips out his lightsaber and his laser shield, which I don't know what they call it, but it's a lightsaber. And like he carves this thing's head off. It like spins around it, cutting like shapes in it, like one of those child's toys that has a circle that you got to put in the circle. That's what he does to this beetle, just annihilates it. And apparently this is not a thing that happens on the planet. None of these things have ever been killed by the actual sentient inhabitants of this planet, of which Grendel finds right after this happens, because this little bitty alien guy scurries out and just starts like saying things in alien language that Grendel doesn't understand. This kind of, and this thing is totally like the alive version of what those skulls were.
Yeah.
That, not dead. And he starts squawking at Grendel.
The alive, not dead version of the skulls.
He starts squawking at Grendel. And by the time Grendel can get like his auto translator, like wristwatch predator bracelet to get up and tell him what the fuck this thing is saying, he hears just enough and understands just enough that this little creature is asking if he's a god, because whatever priest, whatever holy people they have say that only God can kill giant murder beetle scorpions, and Grendel has killed one, ergo, logically, Grendel must be a god.
I hope in the second issue it starts with him saying, I'm not a god, I'm Grendel Fly.
He taught them violence.
Very CP3O-esque situations could happen.
This is. I thought the designs in this book were amazing.
Yeah.
Even talking about the phallic shaped spaceship that was punching through holes through the whole thing. I thought the designs in this book, I thought the character designs, the creatures were just amazing. The art to me was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The story was fine.
Yeah.
It's just, and I'm sure once again, if I was a Grendel fan, I'd probably be all over this book. So if you've ever read Grendel before, you probably already got the book, but, I don't know. It gives you enough of a background that you don't have to have read previous Grendel properties.
Yeah, and like I said, I hadn't, and kind of like what Matt was talking about earlier, I felt like I was dumped into this world I didn't know anything about, but I really enjoyed finding out this version of it. And I think because I've read Mage before, like I understand enough about Matt Wagner's like storytelling and the type of stories that he tells that maybe I picked up on his cues, but I just had a lot of fun with this, man.
Yeah,
just a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed the second half. From about the time you see the totems until the end of the book, I really enjoyed the fight with the creature. Was beautifully drawn, in my opinion.
The action was...
Of course, it had lightsabers, so of course I was
Greg's
all
opinion of this book was mad until he pulled out a lightsaber.
Right. He was like, oh, Dark Horse Jedi. We have those again.
Yeah.
And like we were joking about the spaceship being a giant vibrator and stuff, and it's totally meant to be.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like our buddy Vince B over at EOC says, like comics should be a little bit ridiculous, and I think that ties into it. And
again, it was beautifully the design, like the phallic symbol of the spaceship, wasn't a problem at all. It was funny. It was ridiculous, but it was funny.
I want to know more, and this is one of those things, like, this makes me want to go dive into the Grendel lore more, because from what I glean from this, is Grendel is kind of this eternal being. They call him a paladin, so he's, like, there's something there to do with, like, a religion, and they call him Grendel Prime, right? So he's just kind of just an ongoing figure of, I guess, his own culture. So maybe he was already deemed a god by one culture, or godlike, and now he's going to another culture, and maybe history is repeating itself. Like there's this kind of undertone maybe of that happening. And again, I don't know, because I've never read this stuff, but I wanna. It's cool.
Grendel always came off to me as like Dark Horse's version of Spawn.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that in design. The design, like you can say, like Cosmic Ghost Rider pulls a lot from that design. I really, and Craig is 100% right. I love the art in this book more than anything.
Yeah.
These action sequences, like the actual storytelling elements of the art, the sequences of the art are just fluid, and you just roll. It's like you're watching a moving scene.
Anybody else take special notice to the lettering that that guy did?
No, Tell me about it.
Yeah, the lettering, I keyed on at the first page. It's got a very retro feel to it, and it really added something to the read for me. Yeah, take a second look at the lettering. It's bolder, it's bigger print. It's got a very strong retro feel to it.
That doesn't surprise me. Again, Matt is early 90s, late 80s comics dude. Like that's just kind of the world that he stems out of. In fact, like with Mage, most of Mage was airbrushed. Like most of Mage was not traditionally colored. He airbrushed a lot of it, and it's got this really. It just did something to that art. So it doesn't surprise me that he would hold on to that and pull it through to his work. And I love what he's doing with Brennen. The colors in this book were fantastic.
Yeah, the art was great.
I mean, the art I have zero, and again, I really don't have complaints about any of it. I really don't. To say that I didn't like any part of it, I couldn't say that.
No,
it just
and it's totally fair if anybody didn't. I mean, that's not a disqualifier.
No, but I'm saying that it's just there wasn't anything bad about this book.
Yeah,
there's not. The art, as we've said now repeatedly, was just beautiful. But it's
on some level it surprises me though that, and I wonder if I'm not being. And this is kind of like self-exploration, right? It's because there's a lot in this book that is derivative, and I think that there's a lot in Matt's work overall that he pulls from other elements of pop culture, and I wonder if this had have not had Matt Wagner's name on it, if I would have liked it so much, or if I would have been like, oh no, you're just like, you're borrowing way too much, because again, you've got all those elements. But I would like to think not. I would like to think that I can be objective enough. I don't know that for a fact, but it may just be like baggage from loving Matt.
No, I see what you're saying, because there's definitely reading this. You get elements of Flash Gordon. You get elements, as I said earlier, of Planet of the Apes with these totems and kind of in a foreign land that seems familiar, but it's not. So it definitely borrows from some stuff, but I didn't feel like it borrowed in a way that was in your face.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It was very undertone-ish, I guess would be.
Just kind of accepted. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't there was no pomp and circumstance about it.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's what I liked about it.
I mean, it was very well done. It's just, so.
Well, I'm going to get this thrown on my pull list. I'm in for all 8 issues.
I'm probably
down.
not.
Not? Okay.
Yeah, probably.
I'm on the fence about getting that number 2. Just give it one more issue.
Yeah,
because I'll do that a lot if I'm kind of cold on a book, but I feel like it was well executed. Sometimes I'll pick up the second issue to see, where
that's fair. And I may do that with this book. I may pick up the second issue and see.
It was the giant murder bug scorpion beetle that pulled at you in.
Yeah,
yes.
The cephalopod amalgam.
That's the name of my next punk band, Cephalopod Amalgam. Check out our new issue, our new CD. Do they still make those? I don't know.
It almost had a little bit of a Dune vibe there with the sand creature coming out.
Yeah.
In a very desert-like area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Check it out if you haven't. Go seek it out. Find out for yourself. Let us know what you think. Like it, dislike it, whatever. We would love to. And you know where you can do that at? Jerry, why don't you tell them? Tell them where they can come talk to us about the comics that we read.
On our Facebook group.
Yeah, which is?
Southern Fried Geekery.
You do that so well.
Yeah.
I love it. And we hope you join us there. It's a fun little place. It's a hub of things happening. Lots of good folks there.
It's a hub.
Until next time, go forth and love. Oh.
No. That's not how this works. That's my line, number 1. You don't get to woo until I say till next time. Craig, why don't you kick us off, my dude, and tell us what book you really you dug this week?
Yeah, I read a few books I dug this week, but the one I ended up choosing was Safe Sex #1 by Image Comics. Tina Horn and Michael Dowling. And Steve Wands did the lettering in it. So this comic opens in a sex club where they're having a sex worker appreciation night, which is essentially a giant orgy where the sex workers get to choose who they sleep with.
Sleep?
Do what?
Sleep?
Who they fuck and how they do it and in what as opposed to where they're normally told what they're going to do, who they're going to be with because the customer's paying.
Yeah, it's role reversal.
Yeah, so while the scene's going on, you're getting this background information from our protagonist, Avery, that they're living in this very fascist world that's ran by, stop me if you've heard this before, a right-wing, Bible-based conservative group called The Party has taken over, and things like sex clubs and anything not rooted in biblical morals is outlawed.
Man, that is radically creative. Where in the world would you come up with something like that? Wow. Art, man.
Yeah.
Art.
So she's telling you what's going on, and what you find out is she's actually remembering this last moment at this sex club. And the party, the quote-unquote party, raids this sex club and arrests the person that's running it and arrests as many people as they can grab up on their way through. She escapes, and we jump forward 3 years, and she's married. She's trying to live under the radar. And it starts with her and her husband having sex, because this is what this book does. No, and as soon as they're done, he reaches up to his watch and he sends a message that says, "Finished intercourse with my wife." And he tells her, he says, "Okay, I've sent off my report. You've got 24 hours to turn yours in." Well, we find out she can't turn hers in the same way he does through an app because her purity score is too low. She has to physically go to the office and turn in her report that she had sex with her husband. So, she's like, well, why do we have to talk about this every time as soon as we're done having sex, blah, blah, blah. So this kind of ends. Her husband goes on to work. There's some other things that happen that I'm going to leave out, but her husband goes on to work, and we find out he works for the party at the propaganda office. And he's in the elevator with one of the higher ups and the person leading the propaganda office. And she gets called off of the elevator by somebody else, and he's on it. Well, it drops him off at her floor, and he's not supposed to get off at that floor. And he's like, what the hell? And he gets off and he walks down and he opens a door and he just says, oh shit. And it doesn't show you what he sees behind the door, but then we come back to her at going home, and the party's raiding her house and tells her that her husband has been arrested. And about that time, somebody holds up some illicit material and says, illicit material found. And so they're going to arrest her. The illicit material is open-toed high heel shoes.
Wow.
And so...
Are you sure Margaret Atwood didn't write this?
Right? So she takes off running and escapes, and the only place she knows to go is she had ran into some friends that told her, that she used to work with, that told her where the sex club has reopened at now.
Yeah.
And so she goes there to look for help, and that's how the story ends.
Okay.
So first of all, Michael Dowling draws and colors this book absolutely beautiful. The tones he uses while coloring just mimic your emotions to the point that you don't know if it's the colors that are forcing your emotions or if the emotions are matching the colors. He does it that well. It's drawn really, really well. And while you're looking at this just wonderful art, Tina Horn weaves this incredible story about fascism, and a real look at what could happen right here in America if we allow theocratic rule to take over.
Again.
Yeah. Where would this come from? It's well written, engaging. It immediately draws you in. Mm-hmm. You could look at the first couple of pages and say, oh, this is a smut book because it opens right with an orgy scene. But that's unfair to this book. But I'm sure that there's people that are going to be on the other side of this that aren't going to understand it, that think this is an attack on them. Yeah. That are going to use that as a way to discredit this book. And it absolutely should not be used that way. But, they will.
So it doesn't surprise me at all that you like these colors as much as you do.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the art right now. You know why?
Why?
Looks a lot like Betty Brettweiser's.
Oh, yeah.
Looks a lot like what Betty Brettweiser did in the Sean Phillips art that she colored.
Well, and that's when she was at the top of her game, for sure. So, this book uses the sexual freedom movement that started in this country in the 60s as a vehicle to represent an underground resistance towards theocratical values. Mm-hmm. It is just sad to me in 2019 that we're still, number one, fighting for sexual freedom in this country, and that this even has to be a book that we have to talk about. But it's so based in what's going on now. Mm-hmm. I brought it for you to borrow, and I hope you read it because I think it's something you'll really like. But yeah,
it sounds like a very, very Caleb book.
Yeah, it was really good. I wasn't sure what to really expect with this book, but I've never heard of Tina Horn before. I looked her up, and now Michael Dowling's done some other work, and he did Death Sentence, which is one of my favorite indie books that he's done. But I couldn't find anything on Tina Horn. I certainly haven't read anything by her, but this was a very, very good book.
The name sounds really familiar.
It does, and I kept wanting to say Tina Howard, which is not her, and I maybe accidentally slipped that in at some point during my review, but I couldn't find anything on her. I looked.
The name sounds really familiar.
It does. I don't know if she's related to Horn, Greg Horn, in any way.
No, and the only book that I can find that she's credited on is Safe Sex, so that could, I don't know. Yeah. I imagine she's done some indie stuff that we've read before. She would have had to.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a fantastic book. I love that they're using these
Mm-hmm.
sexual freedoms as a way to fight this
Well, and it's cool,
theocratic rule.
and it's smart, especially after the success, like from a business perspective, after the success of A Handmaid's Tale, to bring this type of story to comics and not have it just be, Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
And they've done that a lot, where they give us Stranger Things, the comic book,
Right.
and what inevitably sells better, a book that's like Stranger Things that is not titled Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So
See, and I haven't watched Handmaid's Tale, so
it's, if you liked this book,
Yeah.
you are going to. It's weird to say, you're going to enjoy what Handmaid's Tale gives you, but
Gotcha.
it's also going to disturb the shit out of you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know the premise of it, but I've never watched it. So,
I
yeah.
watched it with the hubs and just found myself getting enraged.
Yeah.
After every, it's like making yourself watch Fox News for 15 minutes just to be
Well,
pissed
that
off.
sounds like a good time.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you'll get angry about it, but it is,
Yeah.
it's a good story.
My wife watches Handmaid's Tale. She's not a sci-fi fan at all whatsoever, and she loves that show.
Well, there's no sci-fi to Handmaid's Tale.
I thought it was a future sci-fi.
No, it takes place in the future, but it takes place in a future where this happens, where the
Puritanicals take back over the
I misunderstood.
country.
there's like a
the
civil
premise.
war in the United States, and so these different factions break off. Like Canada's now like a leading country in the world. It's a major superpower, and basically,
So it is sci-fi.
well, yeah, in that aspect. But there's no like robots and giant spaceships, and there's just uber religion.
But it's
so-
kind of like dystopian future-esque,
Yeah.
or utopian future.
Yeah,
which
well,
is
it's not a
fun.
utopia for sure,
Yeah.
but
Well, and that's because I walk in and out of the room when she's watching it, and I stopped and asked her, "Is there any episodes
sex
that,
robots in this or anything?
yeah, I was like, are there any episodes that aren't depressing? It's
No.
got a very depressing
no, it
feel
is.
to
It
it.
is like it's a good story, but it is 100%. It will enrage you if you have a soul.
Well, there's a part in this book where she's going to try and get a job with the party, because they've kind of run everything.
Yeah.
You kind of work for the party or you don't
It's
work is kind of the way
100%.
yeah. And so she's going to interview the party, and her husband looks at her and he goes, "Are you wearing that?" And she's like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "Are you going to say it's slutty?" And he's like, "Well, and it just came down to she was showing too much cleavage." So
Yeah.
she's like, "Okay, I guess I'm going shopping before I go to the interview." And then she's in the interview, and the person interviewing her says, "Oh, that's an interesting choice in lipstick you made." And she's like, "Oh," and she's like, "I thought it would be, okay." And she goes, "I'm sure you did. Here's a handkerchief.
Change it. Wow.
Yeah. Wipe your face off."
You should smile more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was straight up, just in the thing, having to file a claim every time you had sex with your spouse, so that the purity party knew, and you had purity scores. It's I call it the purity party. They just call it the party, but
This is
the purity party.
George
Sounds better.
Orwellian, big time.
Very much.
Yeah, for sure.
Very much.
That's what the name the party, of course, automatically.
Yeah, it throws
So-
you back
yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, why don't you tell us what you read this
Yeah,
week?
why don't you
brother?
bring us up a little bit, Matt?
Okay, well, I usually don't do that.
Oh, did you need murder? Did you need murder to happen?
Yeah.
I got you. boo.
After some real life sadness here,
Yeah.
let's.
Yeah. Got blood by the bucketful. So, 2016's Vertigo, Sheriff of Babylon #1 by Tom King and Mitch Gerrits. Who else has read this?
I have not. I need to rectify that situation.
Jerry, no? I know Caleb's read it because he's a big Tom King fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, this has been optioned as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the first thing I read from Tom King. I got lucky, in fact, because this series got real popular about issue #3 when the momentum caught up. Well, I happened to find issue #1 in a small comic book shop in Oklahoma, and so that's the only reason I really got on the series. Otherwise, I would have let it go. It's excellent, man. This story is great. So, the setting is February 2004 in Baghdad, Iraq, in the American-controlled Green Zone. This is 10 months after the fall of Baghdad. It's an American ex-cop. The book opens. There's an American ex-cop. He's leading PT for a group of fresh recruits.
Caroots.
I don't know what that is. Fresh
caroots.
Carroot sounds like something you get at Kroger.
Those are French carrots.
Yeah. Of recruits of the Baghdad police force, and he decides to break for lunch As he's doing so, he's told that there's actually a suicide bomber in the mess tent. He enters the tent and sits down at the table with the supposed bomber, and it's a woman sitting there in a burqa, the Iraqi woman sitting there in a burqa, holding her burqa close to her body. She, looks timid and nervous, scared, and he just starts to small talk her and normal things about, lunch and so on. All of a sudden, a gunshot rings out and her head explodes, as tends to happen in map books. And so the
tracks.
Come to find out, and he turns around and the bomb squad is standing there. The bomb squad is reprimanding him, yelling at him, say, "Look, we had to shoot her because you were in here." And he was just trying to help, trying to, rectify the situation by talking her down. And that's how it turned out. This kind of sets the tone for how things are in the green zone. Nobody, it's total chaos. Nobody really knows how to do this, as far as, rebuild an entire government from scratch. Yet, a system had already existed, a bad one. So we cut to to a different scene. And there's a series of, 4 different panels, 4 different people talking to the same person off panel. The 4 different people are a U.S. Army general, a hospital administrator, a local tribe leader, and finally just a local Iraqi man. The off-panel person is being asked by the general to help with the protesting citizens to get them off the streets so the army can make a particular maneuver in an area. This off-panel person next is speaking to what turns out to be an administrator. The administrator is telling her, these are people that are protesting because the truck carrying hospital supplies has been stolen. Next panel is talking to a tribe leader. He's like, yes, I know who stole the truck. I can't intervene because, certain factions of the populace will see that I'm working against working against some of the populace, working for the Americans. I can't have that. I cannot take a stance. Finally, the person off panel is sitting across the table from just an Iraqi man. And we find out that this guy is responsible for stealing the truck. He says he needs it to feed his family, and no American whore will change him on this. So we see that the person off panel is actually an Iraqi woman named Sophia, and she explains that calling her an American whore is not right. Her grandfather helped found the Ba'ath Party, but was murdered by Saddam along with all the other members of her family, while she was actually in school in America, watching this happen on TV.
Wow.
She goes on to say that she worked for 20 years to get the Americans to actually take Iraq. She gave herself for this, and now she says Iraq is hers. Quote, "So a whore then? Yes, I think so, but not American," she says. She then goes on to calmly tell the man that his entire family, including his brothers and cousins involved with the theft, have been murdered. The only people that have not been murdered are the women and the children, which she says, I'll take care of them. Meaning they'll be saved. They'll be safe. Not I'll take care of them in the mob sense. Then he is,
make you a deal you can't refuse.
Deal he can't refuse.
Yeah. Then to keep the theme going in a map book, he is shot in the head by a man standing behind him. She then crosses the room to shoot him in the head herself as well. So next we have a scene of a different Iraqi man. This man's name is Nasir, and he is talking to his wife, what appears to be in his kitchen. We assume it's in his home. He's telling her that he doesn't know what to do. He was a police officer in Saddam's government. He's saying that he is a man of the law, but now there is no law. He then goes into the basement where he has 3 American soldiers bound and gagged. He tearfully recounts the death of his 3 daughters by American bombs and then executes each soldier. 2 of the 3 soldiers are actually begging for their lives as they do this, but the last soldier just stares at him coldly until he is killed. We then go on to learn that Sophia is actually on something called the Iraqi Council. This is a team of leaders, local leaders, that have been tasked with rebuilding the Iraqi government. Her and the lead character we started out with, named Christopher, they know each other from this line of work. And the issue wraps up with Christopher calling her for help. One of his police recruits has been found murdered in the street, and there's confusion of what to do with the body because jurisdiction has not been established. A local murder is not a military matter.
Right.
So the army has passed responsibility of the body and the crime to him. And Christopher is calling her because, he just started PT, and in the book, they can't even do jumping jacks right. Mm-hmm. That's how early it is in this. There's no sheriff. So he's calling her for some kind of help on this because they've got to start investigating how this guy get murdered, obviously. So she tells Christopher that if he needs an investigator, she believes she can help. And the book wraps with, when we see Nasir standing in his kitchen and he's crying, he's covered in blood spatter, and he answers his ringing telephone. So it's Sophia calling, wishing him well, and telling him that she needs an investigator. The police are no more. I'm not working. I do not want to work, he says. Yes, she says, but let me ask you, the 3 packages were brought to you as requested, correct? Yes, I have the packages, he says. And then he pauses and says, she says, I was glad to do this for you. And Nasir then says, yes, if you need an investigator, perhaps I can help.
Okay. This book was amazing.
Yeah. This is a crime book set in the, in this American green zone. It started out as an 8-page. It started out as an 8-issue series, and it took off with a bang. So DC stretched it to 12, and honestly, you can feel the stretching points.
Yeah.
But the beginning, the first 3 issues are incredible. This is the first time that King and Jared's worked together, and they worked together awesomely in this series. Mitch Jared's did something very specific that you see in a lot of when you read Mr. Miracle, the all black panels with the white words. Yeah. This series he started that, and he did it very well with this. He actually changed some lettering to make the dramatic impact of like gunshots specifically and explosions, and so man, it is killer. This is a killer crime story. And the ending is great. Oh, the ending is great.
So, fun fact, do you know what the original title of this series was? What it was supposed to be?
Sheriff of Baghdad?
Yep.
Yeah.
They had to change it. The CIA made him change it.
Yep.
Yeah. So Tom King being an actual CIA agent who was in Baghdad when the war first started, he had boots on the ground. He has to turn in all of his scripts to the CIA so they can make sure that he's not divulging any classified secrets. Now, I don't think he does anymore. He's been out long enough that I'm sure that's passed. But at this time, they had to, the CIA took a fine-tooth comb to this book to make sure, A, there were no subversive messages, B, that there was not any state secrets, C, that there was nothing in there that could tie any wrongdoing from the newly formed Iraqi government, and they made him change the title.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I love Tom King in this sort of thing where he's doing these 12-issue maxi series. I think that's where he shines unbelievably. So, again, this is one that's been on my list of ones I need to pick up. I just haven't had the time to get to it.
Yeah. And you need to finish Vision.
Yes. So that's a true statement.
Did you ever finish Mr. Miracle?
Yeah, Mr. Miracle I read all the way through. Yeah. I really loved it.
Yeah, right. Well, so far we've had female subjugation and invasion of foreign countries. Jerry, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm going to be talking about Gotham City Monsters.
That sounds like it's safe.
Like Craig's book starts off with an orgy and then someone's head exploding like Matt's book.
Well, never mind.
No, I'm just kidding. So Gotham City Monsters by Steve Orlando. Artist is Amanke Naholpan. Colorist is Trish Novahill. And the letter is Tom Napolitano.
I think is how you say that.
A lot of insecurity in those credits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here for the most part. So it's got one of my favorite types of things with as far as team books go. Is you take a bunch of like random weird characters and you toss them all on a team and make them do a mission together. It's only a 6-issue miniseries. And actually, you know, aside from Frankenstein and Killer Croc, I didn't really know much about these other characters. Like, I know of Andrew Bennett from I, Vampire, but I never read I, Vampire. You know, of course, Clayface is the big Batman villain everyone knows and loves. Then there's Orca, who is, you know, just was a female scientist who had herself genetically altered to become this, like, it's almost what was it, like Killer Shark in a respect. I know some
King
people
Shark.
King Shark in the past have actually gotten Orca confused with King Shark. And then you have Lady Clay, who is a female version of Clayface in a way, but it seems like she almost has more abilities and stuff than
More
he does.
control.
And a lot of these, so this is a Event Leviathan kind of offshoot. And kind of the way that they're bringing all these characters together is a lot of them were in these organizations that got dismantled or destroyed by Leviathan. They're in this town called Monster Town. And yes, it's a very
it's a section of Gotham.
Yeah.
It's like Chinatown in
yeah.
San Francisco or New York or whatever.
And it starts off with Andrew Bennett pretty much finding this new sect of vampires, and he's like pretty much a vampire hunter. He goes to drink one of their blood and instantly recoils because there's something wrong with it. It's like tainted in some way. So yeah, we get introductions to each character. Of course, you know, before you meet up with them, Killer Croc had finally done his time in Suicide Squad and kind of wanted to settle in and get out of like the dangerous.
It's because
he's
not in the new Harley Quinn movie. They had to take him out of Suicide Squad.
And then we see Frankenstein, which Shade just got destroyed by Leviathan. And this is, I really love this version of him. And it's mostly due to like the color that they use for him. A lot of times, like here lately, they've given him just, you know, your standard green that you see. But I think it was Seven Soldiers of Victory was my first little thing to Frankenstein, and they give him this like sort of greenish blue pale that gives you that look of skin that's you know been decaying over the years, and I really like that they went with that in this book. Not to mention all of his word balloons are all kind of like they look kind of chiseled on the outside and everything. So and his lettering is really great. So you know that he's got like some kind of like crazy raspy like almost
Frankenstein monster.
Voice. And it looks like he's actually here to hunt someone down. Bear with me for a second. He's hunting Melmoth, which used to be a director of Shade. I don't really know anything about Melmoth, but essentially, it from the sounds of this book, he was some kind of like Mars vampire warlord, and he thought that it was his mission to come to Earth and save humanity and stuff like that. But he, you know, twisted his perception on it, and this whole story is going to be tied together by this villain. There's a lot of instances where you have all these characters that are converging on this theater, this old school theater in Gotham, and you see all of these what are they, baboons, and they've got this like green liquid, and they pretty much resummon Melmoth into the world. It looks like they steal the souls of everyone in the audience and resurrect him. Frank like runs into to Andrew Bennett because Andrew Bennett's looking for answers. Frankenstein's chasing down Melmoth because he wants to enact revenge on him. And you see a lot of these characters that are in the play that are watching it are connected to Orca and Killer Croc and Lady Clay. So him, Melmoth killing all these people are going to tie this team together and get them, active in this, going after Melmoth. So it's been great.
So I'm curious about something.
What's up?
If I can interrupt. So I saw this in the previews, and there's a character that was solicited in the previews that maybe hasn't shown up in the first. I don't want to spoil it.
No. What character is it?
It's Batwoman.
Really?
She has not shown up yet.
She has not. Okay,
she has not.
It's in the preview, so I hope I didn't ruin that surprise for anybody.
But yeah, I mean they're in Gotham.
Yeah,
in a part of Gotham,
I mean you've got a Clayface.
Yeah.
In Batwoman
and monsters. Yeah.
So
I was just curious.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that book. I read it. It was a lot of fun. It was much more fun than I thought it was going to be. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was.
Yeah, and the art was really well done.
Yeah.
Like I said, I will usually take any kind of chance to get to know other characters that I haven't seen, especially if they're in the bizarre and weird category.
If you've never read I, Vampire, I've got all those books if you ever want to.
Now, was he pre-New 52 or was he New 52?
He was pre-New 52, but then he was also
he got
New
his own
52.
series.
He got his own series.
Okay, so before New 52, he didn't have his own series, but when New
I think he
52
did have his own series, but yeah,
he just
what I was
got a
saying
relaunch.
is, his series was one of the big,
because that was the
arguably
main
one of the better
time
ones.
that I remember it coming out was New 52 was I, Vampire.
Well, and it was right at the time of iZombie, and they were trying to do all these different things. It was good. There's not a lot of let me rephrase that. It was good in the light of what the New 52 was.
Yeah,
there wasn't a whole lot of the New 52 that was good. Quantifiably, but this was one of the better books. This, I'd argue that I think there was an Authority book that came out. I think it was Stormwatch. There was a Stormwatch series that came out then that was good.
Blackhawk.
Yeah, Blackhawk was fun.
All-Star Western.
Yeah, All-Star Western was cool. The Batman run was good. Short of that, there wasn't a whole lot to love there, though.
Yeah.
Well, the first couple of story arcs of Green Lantern.
Yeah,
they had Agents of Shade in it, which I think was Jeff Lemire was he wrote that. So
Agents of Shade was good too.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at some of the panels from this, and the design for Orca is awesome.
Yeah.
That character's amazing looking. I've seen her before, I think, but never read a whole lot with her. But no, they killed it.
A theme for this week has been that the art was great in this book.
Oh yeah, and it's going to carry on.
Yeah. There's a great panel when Andrew Bennett first walks up and Frankenstein's talking about Melmoth, and that's why Andrew Bennett recoiled at the taste of that blood, because it was alien blood, and I guess it infects people. So Frankenstein just slices him in half.
Yeah, just cuts him in half.
Yeah. But that whole panel,
I don't need your help, vampire.
Where he's cutting him in half, and there's just this huge blood spray everywhere is fantastic. And if I'm not mistaken, I know in the past it's been canon, but Frank's had Excalibur as his sword, as his weapon. So
and I gotta say, Jerry, good call on what you're talking about with the coloring for Frank, because that's awesome. Yeah, it's almost like they took a lime color, and they just washed it out and threw some gray tone in there.
Yeah,
this blue element.
It's a very good rendition of Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's solid, man.
Yeah, it was a great book.
All right, well, I guess it's my turn. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take us way back for a little bit. To times past, to the glory days. Not that we don't live in the glory days now, but so we are in October. October is essentially Halloween month. That's all what this is. It's just 1 month of just spooky, eerie, creepy, awesome stuff. So I'm going to try to.
So much so that I ordered a pumpkin spice coffee yesterday.
Did you? Look at you go!
Matt just threw up in his mouth.
Believe you did that to coffee, but okay.
It was more of like a milkshake.
You and my husband, both of you enjoy those things. It is a thing that you enjoy, and I enjoy that you enjoy them.
So I'm going to throw this in. I'm sorry, but y'all are going to like this. I had made a coffee run for somebody the other day, and they wanted a pink drink. Matt, pink drink? I had to walk.
What is a pink drink?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this a real thing?
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Or they just tell you to get them anything pink?
It's called a pink drink.
What the? What is this?
Call you out at Starbucks. It's I don't know. It's
cotton candy flavored
fruit and foam.
Is it like a smoothie? Okay, well, you know what's not a pink drink? What's not at all a pink drink is the book I'm going to tell you about this week.
Yeah. We went off the rails on your...
No, it's a good precursor. But again, like I said, so the books I'm going to try to talk about for the next month are all... I'm going to stick with the theme of horror and scary stories and stuff because, again, that's our theme for our listener questions that we're going to do at the end of the month. So, scary stories. I'm going to tell you about a few scary stories all month long. And for this one, I went back, and I forget the exact year that this came out. Sometime in I want to say the mid-70s, maybe early 80s, but it would have been very early 80s. And this is... Marvel Comics Group presents Man-Thing number 9. And this is written by Dickie McKenzie. Good last name. I respect that. It is drawn by the excellent, the legendary Mr. Larry Hama.
I did not know Larry Hama was a penciler.
Yeah.
This is news to me.
He drew all of G.I. Joe.
Yeah. I didn't know I thought he just did the
wrote
writing.
No, he wrote and drew.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
He's the man.
Like, he literally designed all the G.I. Joe characters.
Yeah.
When they relaunched it, before the cartoon even came out, he designed all those characters.
That fact has escaped me all these years.
See, the more you know. This is what we're here for.
The more you know. The red and blue lasers are...
This was inked by Billy Danny. This was lettered by Parker. Originally, this was in color, and the colors were done by Gaff. But this book, the book that I have, is not in color. It's just inks, all black and white. And that's because it comes out of the Marvel Essentials Volume 2, the Man-Thing book, which is... So, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this book is... omnibuses are expensive, right? Like we're sitting in Kapow Comics over in Sherwood recording this. I'm looking at a stack of omnibuy. All of them are $75 to $100 a piece. That's expensive. These books, they're not hardcover, they're paperback, but they're over 1,000 pages, well over 1,000 pages. And I bought this for $5 at a con. The sticker price on it's $16.99. They have a table of contents. Let's see, I didn't count them, but you're looking at well over 20 stories, 20 issues of a comic. And I bought it for $5. You can find these things all day long, at a con. And like I said, they're cheap, they're fun. They're not in color, so if you enjoy the black and white, books, you're gonna really dig this. And for me, for Larry Hama, this is the best way to experience this book. So this story starts off, it's a one and done story. It's number 9. That's why I picked it. Our monster, the muck man himself, Man-Thing, hanging out in a swamp, right? Just doing the Man-Thing thing. Just not bothering.
I do that as well.
Was he giant sized?
He was giant sized in this, but you know what's not giant sized in this world?
Huh.
Babies. And babies cry. And so our man is hanging out and he sees this cabin in the woods and he hears this baby, just screaming baby. What's going on? Because babies aren't supposed to scream. I've broken Craig. Babies aren't supposed to scream in the swamp.
I love
that's
that's what he does
thing.
about babies, that babies cry.
They do. But the cool thing about, Swamp Thing is an empathetic being.
Man-Thing? Oh,
Man-Thing. No, Man-Thing is an empathetic, sorry. Let me back that up. Man-Thing is a creature of empathy. So he is drawn to fear because he can't stand it. It's saltpeter to him. It's just the worst thing in the world. So when he senses it in his swamp, he has to go after it. Well, usually when fear is involved, there's screaming. So the screaming is drawn him to it. And as he approaches this cabin, he feels fear, but it's like it's not the type of fear that he's familiar with. It's weird. And so he looks into this cabin and sees this baby laying there and like there's water. It's a very strange thing to happen upon in the middle of a swamp. I'm going to back us up a little bit. There is this beautiful couple, young, in love, and a little bit of what they would have called at this time, they would have said that the woman's in a little bit of trouble. She's pregnant. And because she's pregnant, they got married, and they're driving their Volkswagen Bug down the highway. They're talking about things. Their families, it's very Romeo and Juliet-esque. Their families don't get along, mainly because her father owns these orchard groves. He's a farmer. He's very well endowed. He's got lots of money. His bank account's very well endowed.
Congratulations, sir.
He's got a giant sized man thing too.
Well, maybe we never see it, but so he's the money man. Well, his father works for her father and has always been looked down upon. Always felt like he was, that they don't like each other. He's the help, right? Like there's this rift in their this classic classist rift. But of course, those two are the ones who found each other, and they're making these families come together. having the baby is a big issue. They got married.
Tell as old as time.
Yeah, the fathers aren't willing to accept each other as family members or the other person's kid. Just a big thing. Well, because of that, and these kids are driving, they find this cabin and they decide, okay, as they're on their way there, their car breaks down, so they're just like, well, what, shit. But they look over and they see this cabin, so they decide, look, let's just go have a picnic. Our car broke down. I'll go walk back. You're preggo. You're like 9.5 months preggo. You need to sit the fuck down for a little bit. So they pull a B&E. They break into somebody's cabin, like you do in the 70s, and they just sit there and they're going to relax for a minute. They get up, drink of water. They pump out of the well. Lots of, just hanging out for a minute. Well, she starts going into labor. This is not the best place in the world to be having a baby. He doesn't know what he's doing. She's in lots of pain, so she's screaming. There's lots of fear involved in this. So who's going to get attracted to this and does get attracted to this?
He can smell one drop of fear in a million gallons.
Yeah, he can. Water. But these kids have been gone for a little bit too long, and the parents are starting to realize something's up. So, Ma and Pa Kettle, her parents, that's not really their name. That's just what they kind of look like. They decide to go out looking for them. And I mean, this was not a planned outing. I mean, Ma still got rollers in her hair. Like, she was not expecting to do this today. This was not on her list of shit to accomplish. They jump in the truck, and this is like an old style truck. There's a gun rack in the back, some shotguns hanging out. Very 70s. And they go see his dad at the place where he's hanging out next to his little shack. And they're like, have you seen the kids? And they're, they a little back and forth. They explain some of how they just don't like each other. But there is a baby involved. And of course, Ma is like, you two men are just ridiculous. Like, our grandbaby's being brought into the world. This is something that should bring us together. Like, you need to get over yourselves. They're missing. We got to go find them. Let's go. Get in the truck. Shut the fuck up. We need to ride. Like, Ma's a badass. Love some Ma. Story then cuts back to the cabin, right? And you see this beautiful young couple just looking at their newborn baby girl. Oh, it's so cute. It's so little. It's not even slimy in the art, which it should be. There's a little bit of an umbilical cord situation happening, but it's just gleaming new
babies are
girl.
Slimy and screamy and full of fear.
Fiction. Gotta love it.
And she's just happy, and there is no fear. Ma did great in her delivery. Apparently, it was just super easy. Cabin babies are just, there's no complications ever. And as they're sitting there, they wash the baby off. They pump some more water from the well. They wash the kid off. They each take a drink of water. They got to get to feeling better. But
do they take pre-water before they wash the baby, or is it like?
Well, no, there's an old school
baby?
well that you just pump. Like, there's an old school well that you just pump. That they just pull
no,
the
but
water
you said
out
they
of.
washed the baby and then they all took a drink of water.
Well, they
so I
get
wanted to
more
make sure they
water.
weren't.
Yeah,
using
no, they
the
weren't
baby
drinking
water.
baby water.
Okay,
That's not what happened. But because of the fear that's been involved with this, the man thing he's been attracted to this cabin, and as the man thing walks up, time passes. Here's the thing about drinking water that you find out in the swamp: you don't know where that water has been. You don't know how long it's been sitting stagnant. You don't know what's grown in that water. These poor bastards stumbled upon a poisoned well.
Nice.
And they've been drinking the water. They, baptized their baby a little bit in this poison water, and it doesn't work out so well for mom and dad. They both kind of just die. Just because that's what happens when you drink bacteria-laced water, is you just die in the woods alone with your baby. And the man thing shows up, looks through the window, and he sees this baby laying there, not doing so hot itself. These things aren't going well, and he gets this weird emotional mix of fear and the baby. I mean, look, this baby has just came through a very small hole into a world that it doesn't know a lot about, and there's a lot of confusion happening. Mom's not moving. He's still got this weird thing dangling from her belly button. There's a whole lot of shit happening, and obviously this mixture of emotion just confuses man thing to pieces. He doesn't know what's happening. Well, Dad, Mom, because they don't actually have real names, they're driving by and they find the car. They find the Volkswagen that's been broken down, and they're like, okay, nobody's here. And lo and behold, they look in the distance, and there's a cabin there. Well, maybe they went to the cabin. Of course they did, but they listen a little bit, and they hear the baby crying. Like, our pregnant daughter, there's a baby crying. Obviously, let's put one and one together and get two. Let's go find this thing. Just because they're good country folks, they grab the shotgun and the rifle off the gun rack, because you don't go walking into the woods, especially not these woods where there are gators and stuff, without some protection. So they jump in there, and then they see the muck monster himself, the giant behemoth, the Man-Thing, holding this little bitty teeny tiny baby. What you doing with that baby, Man-Thing? They don't know. They're just mad about it. There's nobody else around. And so they start, like, they don't realize at first that he's holding the baby, and, like, somebody just fires a shot, goes right through his little swampy neck. Doesn't touch the baby, though. Baby's safe at this point in time. Then they realize that he's holding the baby, and so Ma's just like, hey, like, don't shoot the baby. That's a bad thing. You don't shoot babies. It's just like, we want our baby back, but it's Man-Thing, so that
There's the title of our show, Don't Shoot the Babies.
Yes. Man-Thing is like lumbering there, and like these three people are terrified for this baby, for each other. There's a monster. They know it's Man-Thing because they live in Citrusville, which is the town. And they just try to get close, but, Ma tries to get sneaky. Ma makes a bad, like I said, Ma's a baller. Ma's a little gangster. Like, Ma ain't playing. She she uses her womanly wiles to sneak up to Man-Thing, and she's, with her rollers in her hair, and she's just like, we're not gonna hurt you. Can we please have the baby? And Man-Thing's like, oh, there's no fear here. Like, but then she shoves her shotgun in his gullet and pulls the trigger. Which doesn't do any good because he's just mossy and swampy, and so he like dispatches with Ma, except for the fact, Ma dispatches herself, actually. Let me back up a little bit. Because she shoves her shotgun into the dude's abdomen, it clogs the barrel, so when she pulls the trigger, it blows everything back. So Ma reverse murders herself, is what happens.
Reverse murder.
So, yeah. Pa just sees Ma get blown to smithereens, and so he goes up, and like Man-Thing just like chokeslams him. Of course, he starts burning because he's terrified. And then, watching all this is the second dad, right? Like the son's father. And he's just like, this is some weirdness. This is very odd.
This is weird.
Very uncomfortable with my current situation.
This is the third time this has happened to me this week. I'm sick of
it. Maybe I need to just like try to calm myself and relax. And he does what Ma should have done. He gets his shit together for 5 minutes. He realizes that the triggering event in all of this was the fear. Swallows it for a minute, and then goes and like he gets the baby, and Swamp Thing senses like the love that's exuding from him for his grandchild, for his granddaughter that he knows. And by this time, they'd seen the bodies. They know their kids are dead. Now half of them are dead, and so he gets the baby, and and Swamp Thing's actually very, very curious about this. Man-Thing, I gotta quit saying that. Man-Thing is very curious about all this, and so he kind of just he stays quiet. He kind of lumbers behind Papa a little bit and like watches him go out. And what you glean from this, lo and behold, love your kids, love who your kids love. It's a very touching story. Accept your children for who they are. Don't shoot swamp monsters. And Man-Thing will love you back if that happens. Also, don't drink poison water out of forest swamp cabin wells, or you will die. If you drink poison swamp water when you're pregnant or with somebody who's pregnant, you'll just die.
Love your children. Love your children. Show them respect, and show Man-Thing respect, and he will love you back.
Respect the Man-Thing. The cool thing about this, though, because you're wondering, wasn't this kid poisoned? Like, what happened with that? They explain that at the end. It's like, like while Man-Thing was holding the baby, his unique physiology absorbed the poison out of that water. Because we're like 98% water. It absorbed it, sucked all that poison out. Baby's going to be fine. Baby's going to go live with Grandpa. Grandpa's learned an important lesson about fatherhood and parental rights and parental responsibility, and this kid's going to be okay. Ma, not so much. Everybody else is going to be fine.
Sounds like a good, solid, uplifting story.
It was awesome. This is a great, this stuff is Halloween reading 101, man. You've got to check this out. And again, you can find these books. They're, like I said, they're not hardcovers. Thousands of pages, amazing stories. This book has got stories by some greats. Let's see. You've got Steve Gerber all up in this. You've got Chris Claremont in this. You've got Don Perlin art. You've got Jim Mooney doing art and inking. I mean, there's just some of the classics. Bob Wyack is an amazing inker, very, very well known in the community. All of that's in here. Again, I paid $5 for this. 10 max, because I bought a whole bunch of them. You can get these all day long and you don't break the bank, and you get to learn important and invaluable Man-Thing lessons. And I think that's what we really need more of in this world.
So, the world would be better.
Check it out. Tell us what you think. So, all right, we ready to talk about some next week books?
Yeah.
I'm ready. You guys ready?
Yep. Yeah.
Let's do this. So I have a book for you. I'll start off. I'm totally going to steal somebody's book. I know you're going to pick this one. You ready? All right, let me give it to you. This book that I want you to pick up next week, is called The Handbook to Lazy Parenting by Guy Desilets.
Did not steal my book.
This book, it comes out of Fantagraphics book. And the reason I caught on to this book is because Guy Desilets wrote a book that I said Fantagraphics. It comes out of Drawn and Quarterly. Bad me. Swamp Thing, Man Thing, Drawn and Quarterly, Fantagraphics. I got to get my shit together today. Guy Desilets wrote this book called Hostage, which I think you would really enjoy, Matt. This guy was literally taken hostage, and the story is from his point of view while he's been locked into a room, and he eventually develops a relationship, like just a friendly relationship with people who are holding him hostage. It takes place in the 80s, where he was Eastern European and was kidnapped from his office. It's fantastic. I'll let you read it. He's awesome. Well, he's written this other book, and it's like $12.99. It's called The Handbook to Lazy Parenting. It's a, final tribute to his frequently hilarious and absurd situations that any parent finds himself in when you're raising kids. I obviously don't have kids, but I imagine I'm going to find this extremely humorous. So he tells relatable stories of parenthood, the mistakes that everybody has trouble admitting that they have, and just the impulse that people have to give comically serious answers to children's comically serious questions. So check it out. Comes out $12. Well worth your time. Amazing cartooning. You're going to love it.
Me?
Yeah, you go next.
Anybody.
I don't want to steal anybody's book. So.
I've probably stolen Craig's book. So I'm looking forward to number 1 Marvel Comics Doctor Doom.
Nope.
Oh, wow. Look at that. This is by Christopher Cantwell, Salvador LaRocca, and Aiko. Victor Von Doom's scientist, sorcerer, disfigured face, twisted soul has been spending much of his time warning against a $1 trillion global effort to create the first artificial black hole. Wrestling with visions of an entirely different life, a better future, Dr. Doom finds himself at a crossroads. A catastrophic act of terrorism kills thousands, and the prime suspect is Doom? ? It says.
Dun, dun, dun.
Victor will have to push his unexplained thoughts aside and focus on remaining alive as the title of the most wanted man is thrust upon him. I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, back Dr. Doom up into a corner, please. I'm stoked. Hopefully it lives up to it.
Jerry, what you picking up next week, dude?
My book next week is actually Gotham City Monsters #2.
All right.
Nice.
So,
what's that about? I'm kidding.
Well, seeing the previous issue.
It's about the importance of parenthood.
The importance of parenthood and loving your children.
And staying away from Man-Thing with fears.
I'm 1000% shocked that Matt did not pick my book. It's The Batman's Grave.
Yeah,
Warren Ellis, Brian Hitch, and Kevin Nolan.
That was my backup.
Yeah. Batman must inhabit the mind of a murder victim to try and solve the case. We're actually going to get a detective story for Batman instead of a crime fighting story.
Nice.
Okay.
And
Warren Ellis.
Yeah, I was really I intentionally picked 2 just because I figured Matt was going to take that one. I didn't want to steal it from him with it being Warren Ellis. But, I'm super excited about that book. So
I had to go with the theme of parenthood, so that's why I chose what I did.
Yeah,
because you don't shoot the baby, and you don't shoot the baby, but you know what you can.
We're taking a stand, people.
They're on not shooting babies. That is our stand on this show.
You don't shoot a baby, but you know what you can shoot? You can shoot the shit with us anytime on our Facebook group page where you can come join and be a member of. We'd love to have you.
That
you
segue was so good.
It was great,
that
right?
I saw Weird Al Yankovic writing it.
Yeah, right. I channeled it. You can also see what we're reading. Check out pictures of what we're looking at on our Instagram page, which I need to do a better job of posting on because I've been woefully behind, and I apologize for that. It is at SFG Podcast, and coincidentally, that's also our handle on Twitter that you can come see and check out. And join us and look at our tweets, and you can find all of the stuff we are listening to and stuff on there. And then last but not least, you can shoot us an email if you want to keep things like, quiet, hush hush. If you just got something you really need to tell us but don't want to put it on social media, we are southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. We have anything else? Jerry raised his hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Craig a question just so I don't have to sit through the credits. Does Joker have any kind of end credits?
I didn't sit through it. I didn't figure it did based on how it ended.
All right, cool. That's good enough for me. I won't do it.
Nice. Got anything else? Going once? Going twice? All right, go forth, love some comics.
Woo!
Woo!
Sorry.
It's a practice woo.
Damn it, Craig.
Copyright infringement. Bye, guys.